So, here I am, flat on my back, because that's what my back is doing. Anyway, I came on here just to share with you, because I know you're all so very curious and wondering, that, like, now is one of those times that I'm missing my ex even more than normal. And, the whole ex thing, that's gonna, I'm getting over it, it's whatever. But, like, this is, like, when I would be, like, because this happens every once in a while, that I throw at my back, like, it's like he would, like, if I were sick, he would just, like, spring into action and, like, just take such good care of me. It was so awesome. So right now it's one of those moments where it's, like, especially, like, boo that we broke up. But the point of me telling you this is because, just to reiterate, like, these things take time. You know what I mean? And they come back, they come and go in waves. And while, I mean, it's not even that, the problem isn't even that I'm lonely. It's just life is much easier with a great partner. So it's like, life is less easy right now. And what I am focusing on is the good memories that we have. Those make me happy. And, yeah, and just hoping for his happiness rather than thinking about not having him and look what he could be doing. Because this is, see, even when you say it, it becomes you're speaking into existence, right? It becomes real. So I'm not going to think about those things, but just so you know, what I'm not thinking about is, like, what he would be doing if he were here. Those are thoughts that I am now moving away from, and the only reason I said them out loud was for you to know that is, like, a thought that comes up, and I am moving away from it, and I'm going more towards, excuse me, like the fun times we had together, and focusing elsewhere, allowing the thoughts to do what they do, and for the emotions to, like just noticing the emotions, feeling what it feels like to kind of be like, like, bummed, like, oh, too bad, like, not too bad, but it, like it is too bad. So I'm allowing that to be what it is, because we can't really stop these things, right? We can't stop our thoughts, we can't really stop our emotions. I'm gonna yawn again. But what we can do is choose to observe them and then focus our attention on other things, right? So that's what I'm doing. I'm observing them with all of you, and I'm going to go back to focusing on my work. It's just a different situation lying here rather than being able to get up and walk around, because it's a challenge to work when you're lying on your back and trying to work on your anyway, doesn't matter. The point is, I'm doing it, I'm focusing on it. It can be hard to focus. I mean, I'm not saying that it's easy. You know what I mean? But I think the key there is to keep coming back to it. Every time you notice yourself veering off to the thought that isn't useful, excuse me, every time you find yourself veering off to a thought that's not useful, you know what I mean? Like, you become aware of it, you notice it, right? You watch it, and then you bring yourself back to where the path you want to go on, even if it's a really boring path. And you're much more interested in the thought that it's useless, right? So I don't want to make it seem like this is an easy thing. It's like magically all of a sudden, okay, I'll just focus. It's like, it takes work. It takes doing it again and again and again, and becoming more. And every time you do it, you can't give up. You got to keep doing it. And every time you do it, you get better at it. You get better at noticing when you go off, and the time between when you go into the thought and emotion that isn't useful and when you realize it gets shorter and shorter. And that means that the time spent there is shorter and shorter. And then the times that it actually happens, because like in between, becomes longer and longer. And then, you know, it all comes together if you keep practicing. You have to keep doing it, and it can be tiring. I remember when I first started doing this, it was freaking exhausting. I didn't want to. I was just tired, because the other way was I was so used to it, right? I was so not comfortable in it, but familiar with it. And it took effort to direct my thoughts elsewhere. So it does take effort. It does take time. It does take practice, but it is worth it. So I am grateful. Not really that grateful for being on my back here, but I am grateful that I had such a wonderful relationship with someone who was so good about taking care of me when I needed it. I'm grateful that I have the tools now to recognize when I am thinking unhelpful thoughts and having emotions that are not useful. And that I have now cultivated and am continuing to cultivate the ability to be aware of it and just observe it, like the way you observe ripples on a pond. And I also have the tools, and I keep practicing the ability and the skill to focus my attention elsewhere. So I am grateful, very, very, very grateful for those things. And that means, even though, here we go, with the being, like my back being out and having to lie here, it is an opportunity to emotionally deal with this, right? Because before it would have just stressed me out so much more. I mean, it's still kind of stressing me out, but it would have been much worse emotionally for me, because like I was saying earlier, my base level of anxiety used to be so much higher, and it's still there, but it's much lower. And you know, when something like this, it's out of the blue, well, not completely out of the blue, you know what I mean, but I thought I was on the mend, and it's a setback, and you know, it throws a wrench into the cogs. And what I'm learning from that is I'm learning to deal with that in a much healthier way. So the next time it happens, which it always does, the next time something like that happens, whether it's I mean, it's really not a big deal, right? Like, I threw out my back. It's not great, but I can cope. But the more you can cope with the smaller things, right? The more you learn to deal with the smaller things in a healthy way. Thank you, Andre. Yes, keep learning. The more you learn to deal with the smaller things, the easier it is to deal with the bigger things. And the smaller things in the future don't even seem like a big deal at all. So thank you. I will be careful, Andre. So that's what I have to be grateful for today. I am also grateful for my friend Andre, who's there telling me to be careful and to keep learning. And hello, my friend. Yes, I see you too. Anyway, I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for all my friends. I'm grateful for the chance to lie down and relax a little bit, even though I still have to work. So that's it. And I'm going to encourage all of you, as I always do, to always remember that you can always choose, because it is a choice, you can always choose to have a grateful day.